Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this young lady back. You see her every Monday, at least on my show. It is Kay Smythe. Kay, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm so good, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Good to see you. Good to hear you. Listen, we always say Daily Caller, news and commentary. That's not the case anymore. You have actually taken a move professionally, which I think is amazing. For those who don't know, Kay is somebody who has probably researched things more in depth than anybody at her age. I think anybody else your age would not even scratch the surface. Your research, the way that you work with companies, your ideology when it comes to being on Newsmax and everything is just second to none, and I love it. You've moved on to something called Million Voices. Now, I don't know what Million Voices is. I think that I've had the guy on before, actually, so I know a little bit about it on the periphery, but if you don't mind, fill me in. What is Million Voices, and why is it important for my audience to know about it?
Well, thank you, Joe. I love that I'm going to be able to finally talk about my data and all of my crazy research in a way where I'm going to be able to direct all of your listeners to be able to take action. You'll be able to take action. You'll be able to have direct influence on your local through all the way up through state and federal level politics, because that is the purpose of Million Voices. So I found out about this organization through a mutual friend between me and the CEO, John
Right.
Graves. And at the time, this was many years ago, at the time, I was really taken by how much data and research was going into Million Voices voter guides. So Million Voices as an organization, we essentially bridge the gap between you, the voter, and your elected officials during election season and outside of election season. So we kind of continue the action post whoever you've elected. They're in office, but you want them to be able to do their job correctly. So one of the things that Million Voices does is when you sign up to join us, you can text MV to 80550, I believe is the number.
Okay.
Sorry, it's a bit rushed today. It's my first day.
All good.
But, it's a lot of fun. But the purpose of Million Voices outside of election season is to bridge this gap by being your voice when you don't have time to be your own. So, Joe, think about your grandparents. I know that my future, well, I'm getting married in November. My fiance's family, he has a grandmother who can't really leave the house, extended family members who just don't have the same options as young people do to go out, lobby, go be like protests even, or even just to go engage in like the community.
Right.
I mean, there are people all over this country who can't even get up and go to church every day, and yet we expect these people to be active within their political community, because if you're not active within your political community, then you're not going to be able to shape that community for your needs. And remember, that's the only reason we have politics and politicians, is they're supposed to do jobs for us.
Well, I want to stop you there because all that's great. And I think that's very, very necessary, very important. One thing that always jumps out at me in every election cycle, and I brought this up to some people who think I'm nuts, but people make promises in their campaigns, and they rarely ever. I mean, Trump is the first one in my lifetime, maybe Reagan too, but Trump definitely thought that he had to do what he said he would do. Yeah, he ran and he said, "I'm going to close the border," so he did. He ran. He said, "I'm going to move the capital of Israel to Jerusalem," and he did. I'm gonna do some peace deals with the Middle East. He did. I'm going to get ISIS, and he did. And people are going, "Dude, you don't have to do everything that you said. Why you keep doing everything?" But I think politicians get away with murder, figuratively, by not doing what they promise they'll do. So, does Million Voices help? Maybe not. Maybe I'm way off on this. But does it help to identify what these politicians say they'll do, and then remind the voters after they've been elected, as you said, that they are or they're not doing what they said they would do, and then maybe hold their feet to the fire somehow?
Absolutely. Start to finish. That is the exact process, Joe. You just
All right, have a good
job.
afternoon then. Good to see you.
Bye.
I mean, does it do all that? Because I think that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, so the start, let's say the start of the process is right now today, which is perfect. We are about 42 days out from the November election that I can't vote in, but most of the people listening at home can. Definitely half the illegal immigrants are probably going to try if you listen to most of the statistics. But one of the things that Million Voices is doing right now that everyone really needs to get involved with is get your political candidate fact sheet. So that is every single thing that both the main candidates have said on all of these key policies to certainly what Million Voices voters really care about. So I'm talking about free speech, the eradication of sort of mass censorship. We're talking about right to life. I mean, you name it, if it's within the sort of, I would say, more Christian belief system,
Yeah, right.
Million Voices is going to have every single data point you need to make the decisions on how you vote in November based on your values. And if you are not a Christian, then you can go to the candidate fact sheet website. All of these are on my personal Twitter. Anyone listening can go to my Twitter account, which is Kay Smythe, Smythe, K Smythe. And you'll be able to see both the Million Voices and the candidate fact sheets. And so what we do at Million Voices and throughout all of the other organizations that I work with, because it was never just Daily Caller, I've always worked with a lot of people all at once,
Right.
but now
This I
I'm able
know.
to talk
Yeah.
about it. So once you know exactly how your candidate thinks and feels, and these fact sheets, Joe, they're updated almost in real time. So say, for example, someone like Kamala Harris, who's been vehemently anti-gun, she's, really opposed the Second Amendment. She hates the fact that, the real purpose of the Second Amendment is to stop the sort of globalization, the sort of New World Order overreach by people like Harris, people who are sort of bought and paid for by these globalists. So even though she's been super opposed to the Second Amendment for like ever, she just went on telly and told Oprah that she'd like shoot someone if they broke into her house.
Listen, Kamala Harris said she can't wait to shoot somebody walking in. So she owns a gun, and Walz owns a gun. She loves the gun. Hey, we should all have guns. Let's all shoot guns. And so she's lying about that. So Million Voices would do what? In 2018, she said this. In 2008, she said that. In 2020, she said this. Compare and contrast and show the true. Because she keeps saying her values haven't changed, but everything out of her mouth keeps changing.
Exactly. So we keep tabs on that. But we also do the same for Trump. And it's not just what these people say, like what these candidates say when they go out in public. We're also looking at all of their sort of administrative, executive decisions.
That is a word, yes.
She can't make any executive decisions. She's never even won an election properly, has she?
I don't know that she has, and I'll be honest with you, depending on who she slept with early on, and then later on, I guess maybe Gavin Newsom, everybody else helped her. But you're right. I mean, again, you're holding their feet to the fire, and I'm glad you said Trump. It should be both sides. If one side said, I'm going to do something, they didn't do it, they should be held to the fire. So how do people get involved in this, and how do they find out the research that you've done? Are you literally the person who's researching all this stuff and then doing it for Million Voices? Like, what is your role?
No, we have an extensive, comprehensive, fantastic team of experts who put these fact sheets together. And so what I really want to encourage everyone who's listening today to do is to text MV to 80550. I really need to double check that number, but I'm like 100% sure that's what it is. But it's MV to 80550.
Okay.
You will then receive your free candidate fact sheet. So you'll be able to go through, look at everyone's policies on both sides of the spectrum. So you can make your decision on how to vote based on those policies and based on all of the research and data that we've put behind it. So you're not just looking at like, oh, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that. It's like, nope. This is this candidate's extensive history with this particular subject matter. Here's how they voted on it. Here's how they speak about it publicly. Here's actions that they've taken surrounding it. And so it really allows voters to not just make decisions for themselves when they're approaching the ballot box, but they're also going to be able to educate those around them. And Joe, I don't know if you know this, and I hate to bring this up on your incredible, like literally the best radio show in the country.
Obviously.
But most people get their political information not from the news media. It's not from social media. It's like barely even online. It's literally just from your friends and family and your community. So I'm also going to ask people to donate to Million Voices, because one of the things that we like to do is disseminate our candidate, our fact sheets as widely as possible. And remember, they're non-partisan.
Okay, I don't know. Is it a nonprofit?
It is a nonprofit.
I did not know that. Okay,
yes.
Go ahead.
We are a nonprofit.
People should donate. Go ahead.
Yes. So everyone come along and donate. For every $25 we raise, we're able to send out an extra 250 of these fact sheets. That is the average size of a church here in America. So we can go and get this information directly into Americans' hands. And then that allows you, all of you excellent listeners at home, when you're in conversations with your loved ones about the upcoming election, you have the data right there, everything you need. It's not going to be trawling through Google, looking at the he said, she said. Yeah. It's that here's the most recent thing, and here's how they most recently feel. here's how they felt in the past. What do the young people say? We brought the receipts.
Yes, brought
That's
the
the way we put
receipts.
it. We brought the receipts.
Exactly right. Well, we'll get,
Yeah.
okay. No, I love it. So the actual website is what?
Millionvoices.org. So
Okay.
super simple. So everyone just go and check out millionvoices.org. You'll find all of the information you want in there. Again, it's a little bit more of a Christian-centric worldview, and we'll talk, I'm
Good.
sure, on a later show about certainly how strange it is for me coming out here, being like a former sort of secular, like, you know, I was never an atheist, but like a bit of an agnostic,
Yeah.
and very liberal, to being a very proud conservative Christian in this country. I can't vote though, guys. Again, the accent
Well, fix
does not
that.
allow me to vote.
No, that's not the accent. Get your citizenship, for God's sakes. All right, it's Kay Smythe. Go to kaysmythe.com. Go to millionvoices.org. Before I let you go, I've got to talk about the nutty stuff I'm hearing out of Europe. And I just need you to tell me if this is true or not. Is it true that in the UK, if you go online and you say something disparaging against all the illegal aliens that are in the UK, you can be arrested? Have they taken away speech completely?
Pretty much. So the kind of crazy one that I read, which was about a year ago, was a former Metropolitan Police officer. So it's like London Police. So this Met officer was in a private group chat. He was retired, and he sent a joke that some may construe as potentially racist, and he got done for it, and he got charged for that. So I don't know what the heck has happened to Britain, but when I was growing up, my dad always used to sort of, you know, go into this like silly little paranoia place, or so I thought, where he'd say, oh, okay, one day they're going to eradicate all of our free speech. They're going to get rid of us, and the white van's going to show up outside, and, you know, they're going to cart us off into the darkness, back to the gulags. And the craziest and saddest part is, like, for the most part, it's actually the liberals, like the people that you would have assumed never would have done that kind of thing, who are pushing those policies. And so I kind of feel a bit uneasy because on the West Coast of America, we've got, actually the West Coast is that way, but that's my geography. But on the West Coast of America, we've got all of these insane democratic policies turning it into, you know, an open air prison camp, really. Like, that's how I would describe Los Angeles. It's a dystopian
I'm glad you went there. Now that you've gone to California, because the UK is already gone. But California, I think, is still salvageable, I hope. But recently, and I kind of agree with Newsom on this. Recently, there was an ad put out that shows Kamala Harris. It is her voice that is through AI saying how she got to her job, why Walz is so bad, why Joe Biden's nuts. And it's literally her voice. It's not showing her saying it, but it's her voice. So Gavin Newsom signed some law that says you can face criminal penalties if you are doing this sort of thing with AI. Now, those of us on the right, I didn't do this, but many on the right said, oh, he's attacking parody and satire. Well, he's really not. If you have a disclaimer on there, I think you should be able to do it. But we should be able to know, and this is, again, I don't mean to side with Gavin Newsom, but I think there should be a disclaimer, or else people who are dumb will think it's actually Kamala Harris saying these things, and it's not. And it's so good, and it sounds exactly like her. It's not an impersonator. It's really her voice that's through AI. What do you think of that? I think if there's a disclaimer, it's parody, it's satire, leave it alone. If there's not a disclaimer, now you could be misleading people on purpose.
No, I think there absolutely has to be a disclaimer. I just think it's really, really weird that, like, the entirety of Hollywood went on strike last summer and shut down, forcing people into like bankruptcies, basically, because everyone was so upset and stressed out about the threat of AI. And like, I know people who will do voiceovers on, like, you know, YouTube shows or whatever, and they'll use AI voices of people like David Attenborough, Jeff Daniels, like, you know, all the sort of classic voiceover, Morgan Freeman, all the classic voiceover guys. And yet these people who built their entire careers around their own image, who have basically sold their souls to Hollywood, then they're not really protected when it comes to AI. Like, none of what Gavin Newsom just did in terms of protecting political people applies to Hollywood. And
well, that's crazy. So I can grab Morgan Freeman's voice, put it through AI, and use it as a voiceover, and he has no recourse?
I don't know what like the specifics are, but like, I know people
that would be nuts.
Published videos in the last couple of weeks who did that. So, and they're like, you know, super duper repped by all the agencies and part of Hollywood, so they wouldn't be able to get away with it. So I'm assuming there is no law for it. But I just think it's just, I don't know. It's just, for me, I just sit back and go, Gavin Newsom, yes, slimy, yes, gross, yes, weird teeth. Also, suddenly not that smart. Like, we were literally
Right.
talking a week or two ago about the fact that, Gavin really needs to be working on 2028. He needs to ignore 2024. Like, that political season is not for him. He
Right.
is realistically going to be the nominee to run against JD Vance in
Right.
2028. I think that's going to be a really tough race. I really do, because there are a lot of stupid women who would just side with Newsom because they're going to think he's like a silver fox. And I know this because I know women who I'm friends with who say this. And I'm like, I know a silver fox when I see one, and it ain't Gavin Newsom,
Right.
or whatever.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, okay, he's suddenly moderating. And I find that to be disturbing because I think you're right. He's planning for 28. He can't possibly run on all the homelessness. He can't possibly run on all the crime. He can't possibly run on all the people that are there illegally. So now he's like, well, the Supreme Court let me get rid of the homelessness, and yeah, let's make sure that we protect people with this AI stuff. He's suddenly moderating, almost like Kamala Harris is trying to. I don't think she has enough time to do that between now and November. But I mean, you're right. He's slicker than her. He's a better actor than she is. He's probably not as smart as she is, but that might actually work in his favor. The fact is, this guy is not doing anything positive for LA or for the places that are most really hit hard by these illegals being here, the crimes that are happening, the borders being open, the fact that you can't afford to live in LA. I mean, I know these San Francisco liberal, I get that, but LA is what we think of when we think of California. Does he have time in 4 years to trick everybody? I've got 30 seconds.
Yeah, no. I mean, have you seen the quality of the education system in this country these days? Like,
Yes, very bad.
it's embarrassing. Like, the fact that I know women who like think Kamala Harris is representative of who they are as a woman, like that should be that.
That's nuts.
I knew back in 2016. I knew back in 2016 when all these brilliant women around me were all like, I love Hillary. And I'm like, how can you respect yourself if you want to be seen in a woman like that?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even just talking about the pantsuits. Like, I'm just talking about how she conducts herself and what she's allowed to have, like, and the same
She's a horrible
applies
person.
to Harris. Yeah. But I do believe that Newsom's got more than enough time to really give us a run for their
I think
money.
you're right.
Yeah, I think it's
think
kind
you're
of
right.
scary. Mhm.
Congratulations on the new job. You're amazing. And everybody go to millionvoices.org and go find out more. Kay, I appreciate you. Let's talk soon.
Thanks so much, Joe. This was great.
All right, talk to you in a bit. We're back after this. Stay right here.